The Reserve Officer Training Corps, better known as ROTC, has been a visible fixture on university campuses throughout America for generations. Created more than 80 years ago as one of the very first units, the Naval ROTC at Northwestern provides students with a free education while offering the Navy and Marines some of their brightest future leaders.
Push up! Marine Corps! Begin! 1, 2, 3! 1, 2, 3!
Created by the Navy in 1926, along with 6 other schools, and with the Marine Corps joining the program soon after, Northwestern's ROTC unit quickly became an important part of the Navy's training of young officers both in peacetime and in the event of a national emergency. Nicknamed the Annapolis by the Lake, Northwestern's program trained almost 30,000 men at the start of World War II. Over half a century later, eager young men and women continue to reap the benefits of a Northwestern education while satisfying an urge to serve their country.
All right, guys, get your squads. Get out. I'm starting the time.
Midshipman First Class and Battalion Commander Earl Masters is one of those young men.
About 2 months before I was supposed to come for my first year, got a flyer in the mail saying, here's the program, here's what we have to offer you. And I looked at it, thought it sounded like a really good opportunity, kind of set it on the table, not thinking much about it, went to work the next day, came back from work, and when I came back for dinner, my parents said, hey, listen, there's something we want to talk to you about. And before they could even say anything, I said, before you talk about it, I want to do it.
With his parents' support and with hopes of one day working in the Navy's nuclear program, followed by a commission on an aircraft carrier, a typical day for LeMaster starts hours before his civilian roommates wake up. Fellow midshipman Travis DeZubla agrees that the contradiction in lifestyle serves as an important lesson in maintaining discipline.
It's even more difficult, I would argue, being a freshman at Northwestern or any one of the ROTC programs, and even being in like the Naval Academy or something of that nature, because there's always the constant contrast around you. You're going to be waking up at 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning to go physically train, and your friends are going to be coming back at those same moments, coming back from bars, and it's difficult. You have to be focused. It's something you want, and the people that just come here for tuition tend to fall out of the program because it really is difficult.
The immediate goal is to produce officers for the Navy and the Marine Corps. But the longer-term implications for ROTC and NROTC around the country are win-win-win.
Widely considered one of the world's foremost military sociologists, Northwestern professor Charles Moskos has traveled the globe during his research and served as an advisor to Presidents George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton.
When surveys are taken of enlisted personnel, that is non-officers, they usually give ROTC officers at higher ratings than they do academy graduates. Now the academy graduates are also usually very well qualified too, but the difference is that if you're at Northwestern, you are obviously living in a civilian environment basically, and you know what's going on in the civilian world, while if you're at the academy, and those are fine programs too, you're much more isolated from the civilian world. And the future leaders of America are going to come out of a Northwestern much more than a West Point or Annapolis.
Moskos believes that while scholarships remain a vital part of attracting strong candidates, cuts in funding present one of the biggest challenges facing ROTC programs at Northwestern and hundreds of other universities.
McElroy, McLaughlin, Lovell.
I don't know what the immediate future holds on the Defense Department budget, but when they're looking where to cut money, because we're spending so much in Iraq, they're probably going to look at cutting back on the scholarships to the private universities as well. And I think that is cost foolish to cut back on scholarships to private selective universities. Those are exactly the kind of young people you want to go into the military.
2, 3.
You know what those are? That's your enemy on a radar scope. That's what you're looking at. That's what you're firing buttons at. There's no person. It's just a digital representation of a contact that's been out there. And so if you're told to take it, you take it. And this is what they're seeing, missiles launching out. What about UAVs? Our goal is to train up officers, give them the basics, the professional foundation. And that includes their conduct, but also we're looking at the inner person, making sure that they are moral individuals who are able, with the kind of the lethality that's going to be at their fingertips, and in their decision making, that they have restraint. They understand what they're doing. And they also understand the fact that they are subservient to a civilian government, and that is what our position always would be.
Another priority for Northwestern's ROTC, as well as the military in general, has been keeping up with positive recruiting efforts, something that's been easier at certain times in U.S. history than at others.
My contemporary draftee in the late 1950s in Germany was Elvis Presley. So you can imagine how widespread military service was during that period. I was once addressing a group of recruiters, and I said, would you prefer to have your advertising budget tripled or have Jenna Bush join the military? They unanimously chose the Jenna option. But that's the way you get people behind, truly behind the military, is when you see the children of Congress, the children of the Fortune 400, the children of American university professors serving, then you're going to see true patriotism.
I joined because there was a scholarship available. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I grew up in Massachusetts, and of my graduating class of about 300 people at my high school, nobody did anything military related. I was the only one.
Lieutenant Michael Charnota spent 3 years aboard the ballistic submarine USS Pennsylvania. Now 27, he hasn't forgotten his Northwestern roots.
I enjoyed it when I was here as a student, so I really wanted to come back here and have some influence here. Be maybe the person that people looked up, the kind of person that I looked up to when I was here. I thought it'd be cool to be that person for the students. On the submarine, you're responsible for the whole ship. So when you're the officer of the deck and you're driving that submarine, then you got 180 people on board, and it's the middle of the night and the captain's sleeping, and you're making the decisions. You're the person deciding, as a junior officer, as someone who's 23 years old, you're deciding, are we going to come to periscope depth? Are we going to transmit this message? Are we, what course do we need to go on? What depth do we need to go on to find this other submarine? Or things like that. And if you're successful at it, and if you really want to do a good job, you probably will be successful. And the reward and knowing that you're making those decisions is, I think, something that you're not going to find anywhere else.
What Midshipman Andrea Kaltenbach believes she couldn't find anywhere else was the chance to realize her goals professionally and as a woman.
This was probably the most exclusive, elite thing that I could even think of to challenge myself with. And this provided me with the obstacles and the stress and the responsibilities that I needed and that I wanted to teach me the lessons that I needed to learn as far as figuring out who I am, figuring out what I'm capable of, as opposed to just going through the motions and getting a degree like everyone else. There aren't a lot of girls or women in the battalion right now. However, there are more females in the 4th class, the freshman class, than there are males. And that's kind of indicative of the increasing number of women that are joining, that are interested in it. And the females in this battalion are some of the strongest women that I've met at Northwestern. That's also something that I wanted to be a part of, is not just your ordinary women. We definitely hold ourselves to higher standards.
Holding these future officers to the highest standards possible is something the leaders of Northwestern's ROTC believe will continue to help define the program as well as America's image abroad.
We had a student who, when I first got here, she graduated, and within 6 months she was on a destroyer firing missiles into Somalia and into support of against the warlords there. And we've got many Navy individuals who are in Afghanistan and Iraq, supporting the Army and the Marines as well too. So we are a nation at war, and that really makes the things that we're doing and what we're planning and training for with heightened intensity, I think, because not only for their safety, but for those who are going to be under their charge.
But it's very important to stress that ROTC does emphasize ethics. And in the current situation of the war against terrorism, that's not only a moral good, but it's also a practical good. When you're in countries like Iraq fighting this almost endless war now, you want the highest ethics possible. Every time American service members abuse locals or kill people that they're not supposed to kill and things of that sort, this has tremendous impact on the efficacy of the American mission there. So by having ethics taught and emphasized at programs like the NROTC program at Northwestern, you are going to reduce the likelihood of abuses and therefore in the long run, and even in the medium run, improve America's military effectiveness.